Hello students, welcome back to your computer science class. Today we will be doing a revision actually. I know I had told you all to finish 4 programs and keep them ready because I was going to teach you all something. But with the upcoming unit test, I feel a quick revision of chapters is very much important. So today we will start with the revision of chapters because now it's just 2 weeks left. And I would really like to, revise everything we've done together in this 2 weeks. But of course, I will be continuing doing Python in the middle. So we will be doing both simultaneously now. Okay?
All right. So the first chapter that we have is computer system overview. Okay. So in that, you do what is a computer? A computer is an electronic device under the control of instructions stored in its memory. It can accept data. It can process the data according to the specific rules, instructed to them, and they can produce information. And they can store the information for the future use. Because of the different units, because different units work as a single unit in a computer for central objective. That is why it is a system, and so it is called as a computer system. Differentiate between data and information. Data are the raw numbers or findings which are by themselves, which is of limited value. And information is the data that has been converted. So processed data, okay, that has been converted into meaningful or useful content. Nowadays, especially in COVID, computers are being used extensively in everyday life, in every field, in the form of laptop, desktop, smartphone, tablets, gadgets, smart TVs, or smart refrigerators. Everything is becoming smart, smart, smart. Everything has a chip in it. So especially in the era of COVID, with this pandemic around and everything has suddenly got online, the use of computers has increased a lot. Functionalities of a computer. Any digital computer performs 5 functions. A, it takes data or input. 2, it stores the data or instructions. 3, it processes the stored data. 4, it generates the output. And 5, controls all the above steps. Any computer will do these 5 functions for sure. Okay? Functional components of a computer. A computer will have an input device, it will have an output device, it will have a central processing unit. In the central processing unit, there is a microprocessor unit which is divided into 2 parts, CPU and ALU. CPU is control unit, ALU is arithmetic logic unit, and besides these two, there is a memory unit that stores the information. Basic computer organization. There are 2 units, input and output. Input is a device which helps us to enter information into the computer system, okay, through which data and programs from the outside world enter into the computer system. So things like a microphone, where the sound will travel inside the computer. Like when I'm recording my videos, I use a microphone. That microphone is an input device. But the screen that I use, that is an output device because it shows me the information, a device through which the results stored in the computer are made available to outside the computer system. So screen, a printer, all these are output devices. They give us information. Basic computer organization, these are the input devices. I've done all these with you, so I'm not going to sit and read them, okay? You all can spend time over this screen later on. You all can take a screenshot or pause or whatever is your way to do it and go through them. These are the output devices, and these are both input and output devices. Okay. Then basic computer organization, control unit. Control unit organizes the computer to work as a single unit. It has 3 parts: arithmetic logic unit and memory unit. CU, ALU, and MU. CU is control unit. ALU is arithmetic logic unit, which performs basic arithmetic operations such as addition, subtraction, Okay, it performs logical operations. You all know the logical operators and or not. Okay, most modern ALUs, they have a small amount of special storage unit, which is called registers. At the moment, all ALUs have registers, okay? And these are used so that the memory can be accessed faster. Memory is a collection of cells, each with a unique physical address. Most computers are byte addressable. Cell address is also given over here. We have done this in bits and bytes also. Okay. So there are 3 chapters coming in your examination. One is this basic computer organization or computer system overview. Number 2 is the number system that we had learned about. Okay. Number 2 is the number system, that is encoding schemes and number system, that was ASCII, ISCII, all those. And the number system, that is bits to hexadecimal, hexadecimal to bits, vice versa. Okay, and then you had the last one is emerging trends. These are the 3 chapters for your unit test. Your unit test will be there for 25 marks. Okay, and it will be in the online mode. So please study and keep. And please, honesty is the best policy. If you do not give it honestly, you will not be able to see your own progress. It's not going to make a difference to me. It will not make a difference to anybody else, including your parents. Because at the end, you are only cheating yourself, because you will only know that you cheated and you will only feel bad because the reports are not correct. All right? So these are the memory units of a computer. We start with a bit, which is a single digit. It can be 1 or 0. It's called a bit. 4 bits together, they form a nibble. 2 nibbles or 8 bits together form a byte or an octet. Now, 124 bytes make 1 kilobyte. 124 kilobytes make 1 megabyte. 124 megabytes make a gigabyte, and just like that, on and on and on, we can keep making different units are made up to yottabyte. Okay, right now we are already at TB. Okay, most of us must be owning at least 1 or 2 TB external hard disk, or if we are not owning it, we are at least aware that TB is available in the market. Very soon we will have PB available in the market. It's a petabyte. I'm waiting to buy my first petabyte very soon. Okay, basic computer organization, RAM or ROM. Random access memory, memory in which each location can be accessed and changed. Read-only memory is memory in which each location can be accessed but not changed. RAM is volatile, ROM is not volatile. Basically, RAM is in which you can access it, or you can access that memory and you can change it. This is RAM. It is a volatile memory, that means it's temporary. RAM will be completely erased once you shut down your computer. And with ROM is not volatile, that means it's a permanent memory. You can access this memory, but you cannot make any changes to them. All right. Then there are secondary storage devices, which are external hard disk drive, which is pen drive, CD, DVD. These are all secondary storage devices. Okay. Even your hard disk drive which are already inside the laptop or inside the computer, that is also secondary storage device. It's not only the portable ones, it includes those also. The primary storage devices are RAM and ROM. Secondary storage devices are hard disk and other things. Okay. Secondary storage device is a hard disk. I had told you all about this hard disk. It can be a magnetic tape, or it can be having so many plates on it, and you can have a movable head. Okay. Hard disk is a set of stacked disks. There are so many disks which are stacked one on top of the other, and each disk has data recorded in it electromagnetically in concentric circles or tracks on the disk. Okay, I'll just do this once more with you all. Okay. A hard disk is a stack disk. So this is how a hard disk looks if you have ever opened one. If you have not, you all can Google hard disk, or opened hard disk, or view inside the hard disk, and you will see something like this. Now in this circle that you see, okay, there are it is a stack of discs. So you can say a stack of DVDs in your mind. If you put a stack of DVDs, that is how a hard disk actually is inside it. Okay, and each of these discs has data recorded electromagnetically in it in concentric circles. Okay, the data is in these circle form. Okay, the data is recorded. These are called tracks, or you can call them concentric circles, or whatever. Okay, now normally there is a movable head. This you can see the movable head. So it is going and it is reading data from here. This head is going to stay here. This disk is going to go circle fast, and whatever interception happens here, it is reading it. Okay. So there are 4 types of hard drive. One is parallel advanced technology attachment, PATA. Then there is serial advanced technology attachment, SATA, which are the most firm or the most stable. Then there is small computer system interface, that is SCSI. And then you have solid state drives, which are the latest ones which are being made are in solid state drives because they are more sturdier and firmer than SATA. So up to 12 TB sized hard disk drive is available in the market today, which is like, wow. But for me, it is not great because 12 TB isn't much. I say it should be 1024 TB. Asking for too much. Greedy. Okay. Next we are going to be talking about power consumption in a computer. Vital component of a computer system is the power. Obviously, because without power, computer is an inert box, it's an empty box. Okay. Of course, nowadays our laptops, they are charged and we do have battery inside it. But if you remember the old desktops that we had, okay, and in case the lights go away or the electricity runs out, that computer was useless. It was an inert box. So in computer, we have SMPS, which is switched mode power supply, which is a power supply unit which converts the altering current, that is AC, from your home to office to direct current, which is needed by the personal computer in the form of different voltage levels. So we used to have like SMPS first, so that even if the electricity goes away, our computers don't burst. They don't because our computers because these convert AC to DC. So even when the lines go away, electricity goes away, they still run for a little while on a lower electricity, but you can shut down the computer correctly and save all the data. The types of voltages supplied are 3.3 volts, 5 volts, and 12 volts. The 3.3 and 5 volts are typically used by direct circuits, while the 12 volt is used to run motor discs in disk drives and battery. Now we are talking about all the components of a computer system. So we spoke about SMPS, now we are speaking about the battery. A battery is a hardware component that supplies power to the device, enabling the device to work without a power cord. Okay, so it supplies power and it enables that device to work without the power cord. There are 3 types of computer batteries. There are three computer battery types used with the computers. First is the backup battery, which is commonly referred to as the CMOS battery that holds your computer settings, such as time and date. This is generally inside the CPU box, okay, the CMOS battery. Next is the bridge battery, which is only found in a portable computer as a temporary backup for the main battery. Okay, so in a main desktop kind of a computer, we have CMOS battery. CMOS battery is the backup battery in a desktop computer, and in a laptop or any other portable computer, we have bridge battery, which is a temporary backup for the main battery. A bridge battery allows you to remove the main battery and replace it with a good battery without having to turn off the computer. So it works like a bridge. So it's like a temporary mode where your computer is still working and you are allowed to replace the battery. And finally, we have the main battery. The main battery in portable computers is an alternate source of energy for when the computer is not connected to a wall outlet. Again, a main battery in a laptop is again an alternate source. It's not the only source. So normally people use the battery of a laptop when they are not close to the power socket, okay, and they are not. It's not possible for them to, uh, to uh, attach the computers to the power socket or the wall socket. On that time, they are using the charging that the battery has been charged and there is enough power for it to run without being attached to the wall outlet. Now, these are the battery technologies. We have lithium batteries, we have lithium ion batteries, we have lithium polymer batteries, we have nickel cadmium batteries, and we have nickel metal hydride batteries. Lithium ion batteries is like the short form for lithium ion and sometimes abbreviated as Leon, is a fragile technology which requires a protector circuit. That means it is something that can be broken easily and so it needs a protection circuit around it. These are rechargeable batteries using lithium metal as an electrode are capable of providing both high voltage and excellent capacity. Then you have the light polymer battery, which is a short form for lithium polymer. Li polymer is a battery technology that is a lower cost version of Leon that first started being used in 1996. Then you have NiCad. NiCad is again a rechargeable battery made mostly of nickel and cadmium. Compared to other battery technologies, NiCad variety offer performance at low temperatures, decent capacity, and a good life cycle. And finally, we have the nickel metal hydride, that is NiMH, short form for nickel metal hydride and also abbreviated as NiMH. It is again a rechargeable battery used primarily in portable computers. The NiMH has steadily improved, mainly in terms of energy density. Design engineers have indicated that NiMH has the potential of higher energy densities. So it can have more power can be saved in these kind of batteries. How did computer come to be? What is the history of computers? The first mechanical calculating device was abacus. And what it used to do is to only do addition and subtraction easily and speedily. It was developed by the Egyptians in the 10th century. And it was given its final shape in the 12th century by the Chinese educationists. Then there was Napier's bones. John Napier of Scotland invented a calculating device in the year 1617 called Napier bones. In the device, Napiers used the bone rods of the for counting purposes with some number printed on these rods. These rods that one can do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division easily with. Then came the Pascal's calculator. So in 1642, we had Blaise Pascal, who was a French scientist. He invented an adding machine, which was called the Pascal's calculator, and it represented the position of a digit with the help of the gears. Next came Leibniz calculator. 1671, German mathematician Gottfried Leibniz. He modified Pascal's calculator and he developed a machine which could perform various calculations based on multiplication and division also. Then came the analytical machine by the Charles Babbage in 1833. He invented a machine that could keep the data safely. This device was the first mechanical computer, and so Charles Babbage is also known as the father of computer. Okay, and then two universities of Pennsylvania, okay, of Pennsylvania had professors John Morshley and J. Prosper Eckert. They built together the ENIAC, that is Electronic Numerical Integrator and Calculator, and they are considered the grandfather of digital computers. This was the first digital computer. Then in 1976, we had Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. They started Apple Computers on 1st April, and they rolled out Apple I, the first computer with a single circuit board according to Stanford University. And then 2007, iPhone brings many computer functions to the smartphone, and the phone became smart. So that is how from calculator we went to computer, and then we went to smart device. I'm going to stop today's class over here, but of course I have to do some PowerPoint, some Python with you. Otherwise, you're definitely going to forget that. So I'm just going to show you all some programs that you all have already done. Okay, so these are the programs that you all have already done. We have done the print hello world program. Then we had two numbers that we added. Okay, and if you look at this line over here, you may not understand this part. So I will explain this part a little later to you all. But the way you all are doing the display function is absolutely fine. Find the square root function. This is new for you all. Change this line, okay? Don't do this line. I will explain you all the dot format option, after which you all can do this. Till that, you will not do this line, but you can do the first two and you can display it in your own way. You can take a number from the user and you can find the square root of that number by multiplying it by 0.5. Okay, these were the programs that I had told you all to do for the assignment. Swap two variables using a third variable, where you had to take a third variable, which is a temporary variable. Okay, and you had to show the value after swapping. This is swapping two variables without using the third variable. Again, this I had told you all to do. So I'm just going to like pause for a second or two because that's enough for you all to see it. Then you have a generate a random number. Another function that I still have to teach you all, rand it. You all don't know this one. Random.randit. You all don't know. You all don't know import random. This is another program that we will do tomorrow. Tomorrow we will do format and random both. Okay, this is a big program, so this you all can do the after. Okay, so we're going to stop over here. Calculate the area of a triangle. You're going to practice this. I have told you all already a few. Okay, so I'm going to stop at calculate the area of a triangle. Okay, with this I end today's class. Practice this program. Practice other programs also, like calculating the area of a cylinder or a cone, or the perimeter of the circle and circumference of a circle, perimeter of a square, perimeter of a rectangle. You have learned all these things. You all can make programs on those now. Okay, so till then, stay home, stay safe, take care, and keep learning. Thank you.